other assistant directors. First, we'll start with Olivia Ciccarelli McGonigal. She is one of our assistant directors. And Olivia, introduce yourself and the members of your team.
Sure. Oops. Apologies. I hope y'all can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Olivia Ciccarelli McGonigal. I'm an assistant director with the team. We have a few folks on the call that are part of my team. Melissa Archer, who is our historic preservation officer. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And then John Papani is also on our team. I don't know if he is on the call. And I did want to introduce, we do have a new Sustainable Communities Program Manager. So Carter, if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. That's me. Thank you so much for the introduction, Olivia. Very excited to get started. I don't have a whole lot to say because it's actually my first day, but I'm very, very excited to be working with the program and look forward to working. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Fantastic. Welcome. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Olivia.
No, I was just to say back to you, Garland.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I'll pass it to Larry Brown Jr. Larry.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our FY23 State Revitalization Program training. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Larry Brown, the Assistant Director for the Baltimore region and Project Manager for Northwest Baltimore and Baltimore County, which is Region 1. Now I want to introduce Jamila Canty. She is the Project Manager for Region 2, which is Northeast Baltimore City and Northeast Baltimore County. For Region 3, hello, we actually have Sarah Kim, who's the project manager. Is anyone
saying anything? Because I can't hear anything.
Yes, we are saying something. You may want to log out and log back in, but it seems like everyone else can hear.
Okay, so again, for Region 3, we actually have Sarah Kim, who's the project manager.
Okay, I'm gonna go out and come back in. Thanks.
Please do. All right, so for Region 3, let's try it again. We have Sarah Kim as the project manager for Southeast Baltimore City and Southeast Baltimore County. For Region 4, we actually have Jean Cannon. She's the project manager for Southwest Baltimore City, Southwest Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, as well as Howard County. And last but not least, we actually have Nick Mayer, who is a program officer, and he deals mainly with Project Core, as well as our Bernie program, which is the Baltimore Regional Neighborhood and Initiative. And again, all of these project managers will be able to introduce themselves a little later in the training. Back to you, Garland.
Fantastic. Again, I'm Garland Thomas. I'm one of the assistant directors on the team. Also, I am the project manager that is assigned to Region 8, which is the lowest shore, Dorchester, Wycomico, Somerset, and Worcester counties. Right now, we're short a staff person, and that means I'm handling also Region 7, the upper shore. And so that's Hartford, Cecil, Kent, Queen Anne's, Talbot, and Caroline counties. Also, I believe we're joined on the call by our Assistant Secretary, Carol Gilbert. Carol, are you on the line? Okay, if she's not on the line, she'll be joining us soon. And so she'll be joining us to talk about something else as well. And so thank you again for joining us. Welcome to you. We want to give you a couple of ground rules before we get started. One, we want to let you know that we are recording this session, and the session will be available on our website probably by next week. We do some editing with it, and then we post it for people who were not able to attend, or if you just wanted to go back to some information, maybe you wanted to rehear. And so we are recording the session, and the session will be available next week. Oh, before I keep on going, I forgot my team. And so let me step back. I'm sorry. My team, for the statewide team, we have Program Officer Ashley Green. She coordinates most of our NED stuff, and she is also assigned to Region 6, which is Montgomery, Prince George's, Calvert, St. Mary, and Charles County. And then we have Sarah Jackson, and Sarah Jackson handles Region 5, and that's Garrett, Allegheny, Washington, Frederick, and Carroll counties. So please forgive me, ladies. Again, let me go back over some ground rules. One, we are recording the session, so that will be available at least by next week on our website. We ask that everyone mute their microphones. We do have a chat box that's available for questions. And so if you have a question during the course of the presentation, please use the chat box, and we have some staff people that are in the chat box that are answering live time questions. In addition to that, at the end of the presentation, we have some breakout rooms that are divided by regions. And so if you have some region specific questions about your project, or for those project managers that are assigned to those regions, they'll be in that box. And if you indicated where your project is, more than likely we put you in that regional box. If not, you're going to be in our main call box, and that's also going to be staffed by some of our staff as well, and they'll be able to address any of your questions. All right. So fantastic. We're going to start our presentation. If you give us a second. So again, we'd like to welcome you to the Neighborhood Revitalization State Revitalization Programs Fiscal 2023 Program and Application Training. I'd like to turn it over to Larry.
So let's get started. The Division of Neighborhood Revitalization, we actually work with local partners to bring new investments to our Maryland's core communities. We offer a range of loans, grants, as well as technical assistance programs to help local governments, nonprofit organizations, as well as small businesses. As we take a look at this slide, this is a slide that pretty much kind of gives a snapshot of our fiscal year 23 state revitalization program appropriations. We have 6 different programs, and the total amount that we have in capital fundings for FY23 is $67 million. If you see in the far right column for the operating funds, we have to be determined for 2 programs that we do offer operating assistance for, which is our Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, we call Bernie, as well as National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund, which we call NED. We are waiting for final numbers on exactly how much money has been allocated to those line items. Once we have them, we definitely will notify you, or once you start filling out the application, that information should be made available then. So as we go through our 6 programs, the first one is Community Legacy. We actually have $8 million of capital funding available for this upcoming fiscal year. Secondly, we have our Strategic Demolition Fund statewide. We have a total amount allotted for $9 million. For Strategic Demolition Fund Project Core, which is primarily for Baltimore, we have a total of $21 million, and that is actually a split. A large portion, almost half of that money, goes towards our partners at the Maryland Stadium Authority, and the remaining balance will be made available for our competitive request for a proposal application round. Next, we actually have our Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, which is allotted $12 million of capital. And again, we will finalize the operating number that comes along with that program a little later. The 5th program we actually have is SEED. SEED is the Community Development Anchor Institution Fund, which is primarily available to anchor institutions such as hospitals and universities. But again, we'll get into the details of the eligibility of each of these programs shortly. We actually have $10 million available for this funding source in FY23. And lastly, we actually have the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund. We have a total amount of $7 million, and the operating amount will be finalized a little later. Back to you, Garland.
Right, fantastic. As Larry mentioned, we have 2 sorts of funding that is available within this round. We have money that's available to support capital costs. And the way that we define capital is it's land, structures, bricks, and mortar, or as we like to say, bricks and sticks, something with at least a 15-year shelf life. And so examples of that would be things like acquisition or construction, architectural and engineering designs or drawings, site development, demolition, and deconstruction. And so those are things that we identify as capital costs. And then we have two available funding sources, as Larry mentioned, Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, or Bernie, and the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund, or NED, where we offer operating funds to support our day-to-day operations of a program or organization of business. And so examples are like, for that is like staff salaries, if you needed the funds to support the purchase of consultant services for like feasibility and planning studies, marketing, maintenance, and things like that. And so that's what operating funds would cover. Now, what type of organizations would be eligible applicants for our funding? And when we look at that, this is a breakdown of the organizations under each funding source and who's eligible to apply. For community legacy, local government and community development organizations are eligible to apply for funds. For strategic demolition fund for our Project Core, which is a Baltimore specific, Baltimore City only funding source, again, it would be, we're in a partnership with the local government, Baltimore City government, Department of Housing, and community development organizations. For our statewide strategic demolition fund, again, be local governments or community development organizations. And when we say community development organization, we're talking about a organization that's been recognized by the IRS as a 501c3 organization, and your mission and goals is specifically built around community development or community revitalization. For our Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, those funds are available only to community development organizations. For our C Community Development Anchor Institution Fund, those funds are only available to hospitals or higher education institutions. Hospitals are defined as a medical practice with 5 or more physicians. And higher education institutions are those institutions that grant higher education degrees from AA to bachelor degrees. And then finally, our National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund, or NED, that money is available to for local governments and community development organizations. Now, one of the things that we require is that a project be located in a designated sustainable community. And to talk a little bit more about designated sustainable communities, we're going to pass it to Olivia.
Great. Thanks so much, Garland.
You're welcome.
So sustainable communities, we are a place-based program. And so the intent is to focus our scarce resources as much as possible into targeted revitalization geographies. And so the intention there is to be able to reach more revitalization and community development outcomes at a faster pace. And so to that end, we do require that projects be located within a designated sustainable community. And do want to note that each program may have special exceptions. So I do encourage you to take a look at our program guidelines and make sure that you are following all requirements there. So we have over 120 sustainable communities across the state. There's at least one in each county, usually many more than that. The program itself, the designation program, is a separate process led by the local government. There's an action plan and a sustainable community boundary that is completed every 5 years. And so, again, I do encourage you to go out to the website and take a look at your community's 5-year revitalization action plan, and that, you know, would inform your project that you would be submitting to us. And finally, how do you know if your project is in a sustainable community? Well, we do have a neighborhood revitalization mapper available on our website. The link is located there. I think you can also use a search engine to find it. And what you do is you simply type in the address of your project into the box, and the program will return back the incentive areas where the project is located. And this is not just for sustainable communities, but also if you're interested in learning if your project is in an opportunity zone or a national capital strategic economic development fund area as well. All right, Garland, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Olivia. Before we go into our specific programs, is Carol Gilbert on the line? Give her a minute. No? Okay. She was going to join us briefly to talk about Project Restore and community safety. And so when she does rejoin us, there's some additional DHCD funding that's not necessarily under the umbrella of state revitalization programs that we wanted you guys to be aware of as well. And so we have some time towards the end of the presentation. We'll let her talk on that. And so let's talk about how you access state revitalization program resources, these funding sources that we've talked about. One, you have to be an eligible applicant or partner with an eligible applicant. And so we showed you that list of eligible applicants: local government, community development organization. If it's for SEED, the Anchor Institution Fund, you have to be a hospital or a higher education institution. Well, say you are a for-profit company and you're interested in possibly trying to get funds for your project. You could partner with an eligible applicant, and they would serve as the lead applicant for that application. And if awarded funding, that funding would be a pass-through through that organization. And so there are opportunities to partner with local governments and community development organizations. And we would leave you that, you up to that type of process to figure out that type of partnership. One, we would like to see proposed shovel-ready projects. And the reason why we want to see shovel-ready projects is because the life cycle of our funding is 2 years, 2 fiscal years. And so we like to see projects that are ready to go once they're funded, because you have 2 years to spend that awarded funds. And so we look for proposed shovel-ready projects that are ready to go once a award is made. Also, we're looking for projects that are making a large revitalization impact, not only for that immediate area, but for the larger area as well. Is it bringing jobs to the area? Is it bringing back online buildings that have been abandoned and vacant for a long period of time? And so what type of revitalization impact is it going to make? And then, are you leveraging resources? In addition to seeking our funds, do you have other committed funds or support for the project? May it be state funds or private foundation funds or different things like that. What type of resources are being leveraged for the entire project? All right, so with that said, we wanted to get into giving some examples of each funding source. And so to start us off will be Sarah Kim, and she's going to talk about community legacy.
Thank you, Harlan. So yes, my name is Sarah Kim. I'm the Southeast region for Baltimore County and City project manager. So I'm going to start with our Acl Funding. It's the community legacy funding is to preserve existing communities as places to live or conduct business and promote sustainable communities. The eligible funding is capital expenditures only, so no operating. Eligible areas are sustainable communities throughout the state and opportunity zones in Allegheny, Garrett, Somerset, and Wicomico counties. The eligible applicants are local governments and nonprofit community development organizations. So yes, we have an example of Acl funding. This town of Leonardtown facade improvement program that we funded in fiscal 2019. The funding was to use to assist property and business owners with funding for necessary facade improvements, which consists of new windows, doors, signage, painting, siding, awnings, fencing, lighting, and ADA enhancements. The award amount was $50,000 for this program. It completed 14 facade improvements, which they leveraged $183,351 in private investment, 1,000 linear feet of streetscape has improved, $750,000 of investment projected over the next 3 years because of the program, and 2 vandalized and vacant building returned to normal use.
Fantastic. And so this is one of our type of standard funding type of community legacy programs, facade improvement. And this is a great example of what community legacy can be used for. And so with that, we're going to go to Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, and Nick Mayer is going to speak to us more about that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Mayer. I am the program officer here at DHCD for Project Core and for the Baltimore Regional Neighborhoods Initiative, which we call Bernie. Bernie can do everything that Community Legacy can do, but it's targeted in a couple of unique ways. And the focus is really on kind of legacy communities within the Beltway around Baltimore. So in order to be eligible, the organization needs to be based within the sustainable communities inside the Beltway in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. The organization also needs to develop and submit for an approval, kind of a designated area and a strategic plan that indicates kind of over 5 years what the areas are that you're going to focus on to try and drive change and improvement. When we talk about a neighborhood plan, we're looking for a holistic plan, and we have a template that we can share if your organization is interested in applying for Bernie funding. So a neighborhood plan under the Bernie program really does need to be comprehensive, including, focused strategies and anticipated outcomes and target outputs for housing, economic development, transportation, the environment and natural resources, quality of life, and community engagement. If you are looking to apply, please make sure to reach out to your program, kind of your regional manager, and connect with me as well so we can talk to you about the process. We do have a plan format that we request everyone apply to the Bernie program with. If your organization has already been designated, you do not need to do the plan again this year. This is a map of our current Bernie designated areas. These are all organizations which have targeted these areas with specific plans that have been submitted to the department and reviewed and approved. We have 21 areas at this time, and please, as I mentioned, please make sure to reach out to your regional manager sooner than later if you're interested in the program. Lastly, on the Bernie program, this is an example project. So just like with Community Legacy, the Bernie program can support projects like the commercial facade improvement programs. Here we have a Central Baltimore Partnership Award in FY19 of $50,000, which supported the improvement of 8 facades, leveraging over $700,000 in private investment and increasing the business community in their area. So these are good examples of how you can use the Bernie program if you're within these eligible categories and you have a strategic plan to kind of drive change over time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick, for reviewing Bernie for us. Next, we're going to go into Statewide Strategic Demolition Fund, and we're going to be led in that by Sarah Jackson.
Good afternoon, everyone. So our next program is our Statewide Strategic Demolition Fund program. The purpose of this program is to accelerate economic development and job production, and to improve the economic viability of grayfield development. So the eligible areas, again, like the other programs, are an approved sustainable communities and also in opportunity zones in Allegheny, Garrett, Somerset, and Wacomico counties. And some of the eligible uses of these funds are demolition, site acquisition and assembly, site development, infrastructure improvements, construction level designs, and stabilization. And again, like the other programs, our eligible applicants are the local governments and nonprofit community development organizations. And an example that we have here, this is actually through our last funding round, FY22, for the County Commissioners of Washington County. They were awarded $250,000 towards the Fort Ritchie redevelopment. This was to upgrade the sewer utility lines. And the impact of this was going to allow for occupancy for both retail and commercial buildings, as well as create workforce opportunities and attract employers and businesses to the community.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah, for reviewing that for us. Next, we're going to have Jamila Canty. She is our Region 2 project manager, and she's going to talk about Project Core.
Good afternoon, everyone. Project Core, which stands for Creating Opportunities for Renewal and Enterprise. The purpose of Project Core is to eliminate blight, support development of green space, new affordable mixed-use housing, and opportunities for businesses to innovate and to grow. The eligible areas for Project Core specifically are communities located in Baltimore City, but also they must be located within a sustainable community in Baltimore City. What are the eligible costs? Basically, the eligible cost and funding uses for Project Core are pretty much all capital activities. Please note that applicants will need to show confirmed leverage in the rate of 1 non-state dollar for every 4 state dollars. Eligible applicants are Baltimore City agencies and nonprofit community development organizations in Baltimore City. An example of Project Core is the Park Heights Renaissance in Cold Spring. This project included acquisition and demolition of an old vault business and redeveloped it into a mixed-use and multifamily complex. They were, my computer's acting up. They were awarded $250,000. And as you can see, the impact was to bring affordable mixed multifamily housing with compatible amenities and mixed uses to former industrial property adjacent to the Cold Spring Metro, eliminating blight and providing quality housing.
Fantastic. We've seen some great work by Park Heights Renaissance that we've supported through state revitalization program funding. There was an article in the paper, I believe last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, of the work that they've been doing to transform that area of Park Heights. And this is just one of those projects and some of the funding that supported that work. Next, we're going to talk about our Anchor Institution Fund, or SEED, and Jean Cannon is going to lead us in that.
Hello, everyone. The SEED Community Anchor Institution Fund, more commonly referred to as just SEED, is a little different from some of our other programs in that you need to partner with or be a Maryland hospital or higher education institution in order to be eligible. So it was awarded $10 million for FY23, and the funds are capital, so they can only be used for costs associated with capital neighborhood improvement projects. It also has a 50-50 matching requirement, so applicants are required to provide evidence of matching funds equal to the amount that they're requesting. Because SEED's purpose is to provide competitive grants and loans to anchor institutions for community development projects in blighted areas, the locations are not limited to sustainable communities, but instead they need to be in an area of blight supporting a neighborhood surrounding an anchor institution. And then a great example of this would be the Center for Hope at the Sinai Hospital of Baltimore. $750,000 was awarded in FY 2020 to help construct a new facility to house multiple partner agencies responsible for violence prevention and intervention programs in order to forge a new program for trauma-informed care in Baltimore and the surrounding counties.
It's a great project in my old neighborhood, and if you were at the Preakness over the weekend or the Black Eyed Susan, you may have seen this building. And so some of the great work that's being done in the area by an anchor institution. Next, we have Ashley Green, and she's going to talk to us about NED.
Good afternoon. So the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund is what we like to call NED. The purpose is to provide competitive funding for strategic investment in local housing and businesses to encourage healthy and sustainable communities within a growing tax base and enhance quality of life. The eligible applicants are local governments and community development organizations. The eligible use of funds is to support the goals and objectives outlined in the Sustainable Communities Action Plan for the targeted areas. And there is capital costs and operating costs that supports capital projects available for NED. And so the eligible target area is within Prince George's County, the boundary created by Interstate 495 in the state and the District of Columbia, so those inner beltway communities. And then within Montgomery County, within a enterprise zone or boundary created by Prince George's County, Maryland Route 200, Interstate 270, Interstate 495 to the state line and the District of Columbia. I know the boundary sounds very confusing, so if you want to know whether or not your project is within those boundaries, you could definitely email me at my email address. I'll put it in the chat box, and Garland, you could go to the next slide. And so this is an example of a NED project. It's from Housing Initiative Partnerships. Is the Fairmont Heights Historic Park. It was awarded in FY21, and it was the creation of a small pocket park commemorating the African American history adjacent to the site where 6 net zero energy ready homes are being built. The award amount was $175,000, and it would create a historic memorial park honoring the former municipal building and providing a much needed pocket park for the town of Fairmont Heights. It would also capitalize on attractively screening the microgrid transformers for those 6 newly constructed zero ready homes.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Ashley, and thank you to the entire team as we went through those different funding sources. And so hopefully that gave you an idea of how those funding sources are used and the various projects that they've gone to. And so now we're going to transition and talk about our application process. Our application process is an online process. And we have Brian Holtzapfel here. He's going to talk with us about how to access that. He's our grant systems manager, and he works very closely with coordinating our project portal system. And so, Brian, I turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Garland. My name is Brian Holtzapfel. I'm the Grant Systems Manager and manage the website that we use for accepting electronic applications as well as award documents. And first of all, just excuse the stuffiness. I'm getting over a cold, so if I go into a coughing fit or something, I'll mute myself for a second. I'll let you know. But we'll get through this. So I'm going to present to show you the website. And so our online application system is called the DHCD Project Portal. It is located at projectportal.dhcd.state.md.us. Some of our returning folks know that in the past we had asked or recommended that older web browsers be used to be fully compatible with the system, but good news, this past spring we were able to upgrade our server, and the system now works 100% compatible with all contemporary web browsers, including Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, and Safari. So we won't have any troubles with those. Just a few notes: if you are a returning user and you don't remember your password, you can click here, the Forgot Password link, and it will send you a temporary password to get into the site. Or if you are a brand new user, having never used the system, you can click the new user link here that appears under the login and fill out a little registration form, and you can identify yourself, your organization, the program of interest, and select your own username and password. When you hit save on that form, we'll receive the request and we can process it, set it up, make sure you get connected to everything you need to get connected to. What we do ask is that if you are a returning user and you know you used the system before, do not register a new account. We don't need separate accounts for separate programs. We don't need separate accounts for different years. If you know you were in here before and you can't remember your username or your password, you can try the Forgot Password link. If you're not getting anywhere with that, please reach out to one of the staff, and we can look up your information or reset your password if necessary. To that end, over the past year, we've set up a designated help desk email specifically for this website, for this system, and that email address is nrsystemsupport maryland.gov. That address does appear periodically through the training materials and stuff. So any questions you have that are technically and specifically about the website or the application online, you can send those questions directly to that email address, and one of our team will be able to handle it pretty quickly. So when you have logged into the site, you will be presented with your homepage, which looks like this. And any application that is currently open and accepting new apps will appear under this section, View Available Funding Opportunities. There may be multiple DHCD funding programs open simultaneously, like right now, SRP programs are open. So too is the Community Investment Tax Credit application. And pretty soon, I believe one of the Community Development and Services applications will also reopen. And so you may see multiple opportunities listed as I see here under my test account. So you'll click View Opportunities button, and it'll list for you the open applications that are currently accepting application. You'll want to find the State Revitalization Programs application fiscal year 23 for your organization. And this is a common application shell, so it covers all 6 of the SRP programs that they outlined: Community Legacy, Bernie, NED, SEED, CORE, and SDF statewide, all the same application. So you just need to click the Apply Now button to start a new application. When it creates the application, you'll be presented here with the home page, the menu page for that new application. And you will notice that the status says application in process, not submitted. It will stay in this status until you fill it all out and either submit it or cancel it. To get into the pages of the application, you will click the View Forms button. And on this menu screen, you will see first a number of resource links, and these can help you out like preparing to do your application. It will have the application technical training, so kind of a PDF version of what I'm presenting here. There is also a link back to the DHCD website, specifically the State Revitalization Programs page, that has links to the guidelines, this training presentation when it gets posted, and other programmatic info and contact information. So you can always jump back to that and pull some of that information. There is also here a blank sample application. If you want to generate a PDF of all of the application forms, just the questions, you can do that, and that, maybe set that aside, do some of your planning offline before you're ready to come in and fill it out. And finally, the link in this section, print application forms. At any time, you can press this button and get a printer-friendly PDF of all of the pages of the application and whatever information you filled out up to that point. So you can print it out early, you can print it out later, you can certainly want to print it out and read over it once before you click the submission button. So those are the resource links, and then they're followed by the application links. Now I'm going to dig into these application pages in a second, but first I want to reference some of the organizational documents that are also stored in the application. These are particularly for the nonprofit organizations, there are a number of documents related to your organization that are referenced in any application you submit in the system. Articles of incorporation, board list, bylaws, Maryland State Charitable Registration. These documents should be reviewed at least once a year and updated or replaced whenever you would need to do that. And that can be done by clicking the My Organizations link that appears here in the upper right. Now my test account is attached to a bunch, so I'm just going to make sure I get into the, whoop, that's not really the one I wanted, but it'll work. So in the profile, the organization profile just lists some general information about your organization. The second tab shows which users are currently registered with your organization, have accounts in the system. And then this third tab, Organization Uploads, is the place where those documents I was referencing are stored. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see it's got a place to upload your W-9, articles of incorporation, bylaws, IRS determination, current board list, certificate of good standing, charitable registration, etc. And so you can upload, replace these documents at any time. You can update the document date. And again, like these documents will be linked and referenced in your applications. So if you need to replace something, it can be done, should be done at this location. So seeing as I stepped away from the application for a moment, and I want to jump into a different one for demonstration purposes, let's talk a little bit about, all right, what happens when I started an application, but I had to walk away. You know, I went to take my lunch break. It was the end of the day. I'm going to come back and look at it again tomorrow. I printed out the sample. I'm going to go do that offline. Now I'm ready to come back. How do I get back to the application I already created? Well, we don't want you to start yet another shell because that's like starting from zero. So there's two ways that you can find the application that you've started. The first is under your My Home tab. So this is the page you're at when you first log in. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see this little button for My Tasks. And in this window will be any form that has been started but has not yet been submitted. And so this was the one that I just created a moment ago, but I'm actually going to pull up the one I created earlier from the morning session for demonstration. So to reopen the application, you just click on the name, the ID of that application, and it will take you back into it. The second way you can locate an application is through this My Application Search tab. And this can be used even after it's been submitted. If you submitted it and you're like, oh man, I wanted to print it out, how do I find it again? Under the My Application Search tab, you can select the application type and year. If you know the number of the application you were looking for, you could type that in, hit search, it'll find it. And again, you can just click the name link, the ID link to open it up again. These search tabs, the less information you put in, the more results you'll get. So try to minimize the use of the filters. Like if I only wanted to see just applications I created under this particular type, I would not type in a number, just hit search and see. Now I get 3 results instead of just the 1. Pardon me. So having now returned to the application, I'm going to click View Forms to go back into the menu. And the application itself consists of 7 pages. And I filled out a little bit of information on this morning just for demonstration purposes, but when you start, they'll all be blank initially. And we'll want to start with the application information page. Each page has a number of required questions, and if you don't fill one out and you save the page and a required question is still pending, you'll get this kind of message about an error and, hey, you know, you need to provide a contact, you need to provide an email. So that's what this kind of thing is. If there's another sort of error, you might get a page error on the page. It says, you filled this out, but you didn't fill out this follow-up. So keep an eye out for these little flags and these error checks. And make sure that the pages have no errors before you attempt to submit. So it starts with organization information. This is your legal name, your common name, federal ID, your regular address, location address. This pulls in from that organization profile. The first question is asking you, is this information still current and correct? If we say yes, we're cool. If we say no, that, you know, perhaps our legal name changed or something like that, we're flagging you here with a red text message that says, hey, get in touch with the program. If you have had like a legal name change, what we need to do in order to make that change in the system is we need some kind of evidence, IRS documentation or something from the state that identifies that this is indeed your new legal name. And then we can make the changes for you internally if necessary. We then ask if the address listed here is the same as your mailing address. Most of them will be, but occasionally you might have like a PO box or something that you want mail to be sent to separate from the physical location of your office. If that's the case, you can answer the question no. You can provide a different mailing address. Next, we ask you to provide a primary contact for the application. This is the person who our program staff would reach out to if they have any questions when reviewing it. And then we ask for you to provide the name and title of an elected or executive official. This is likely the person who would sign the agreement should the application be awarded. We get in some little application detail. We're going to select the application type for this application, for this proposed project. And again, one of the 6 programs. Because I selected Bernie, it's asking me, okay, what Bernie area did this fall into? And Olivia showed you during the presentation a map with the Bernie regions listed on it. It appears, I believe, as a layer in the Mapper website as well. And so you can look to that and say, okay, this is where the project is happening, and it falls into this Bernie area. Does it support, does this application support a program or a project? Programs, for example, like a facade improvement program where you're going to have multiple locations, multiple sites versus a regular project. You know, what's the general type? Is it, you know, if you had to put it to a single category, is it acquisition, rehab? Is it demo? Is it facade program? Just some general categories that you can select from. We ask then for you to provide a short name and a short description for the proposed program or project. The name is limited to 100 characters, so we just want it to be real concise. The description is limited to 250 characters. And so that could be a little more detailed about the type of activity that you're going to do. But basically, these are just identifiers for the specific application. What's the project for? What's it going to do? The next question is a ranking. I believe it's already been mentioned that you can apply for more than one project, and you can apply for more than one funding program within a given year. And so if you plan on submitting multiple applications in this round, we ask that you rank those applications in terms of, you know, shovel readiness, priority. You know, if push comes to shove and funding is limited, which one are you ready to move forward with most? We got a question here about phase. Is this an ongoing, continuing project? Is this phase 2 of a project that was previously funded? If yes, you can just click the box. Next, we're asking a little bit about the funding request types, the amount types. Is it a capital program? So that's your community legacy, your strategic demolition programs, and your seed program, and NEDs, or both Bernie and NEDs do have some portion of funding available for operating as well. So if you had selected Bernie or you had selected NEDs, it may be a capital request, it may be an operating request, it may be a combination of both, a little bit of capital, a little bit of operating. Then you'll put in the amounts requested. How much are we asking for in capital and operating? What's the total project program cost? So this is how much are you asking from us, plus how much else is being put into that particular project, either from applicant organization funds and or other sources. So if you're getting additional funding from local, state, federal programs, funding grants, what have you, private investment going into your organization, going into the project, that makes up the total sum of the project cost. Next, we ask you to provide a primary address for the project. We do need one mappable address, an address where we can, you know, put a pin on the map and say this is where this project is going to occur. We understand some projects may not have all of the addresses yet. I think again of facade improvement programs where you might have a few takers in mind, but you don't know the full extent of where all those might be yet. Find the one most likely. And in lieu of that, if you're not able to come up with a singular address, enter your organization's primary address as the primary address. And when the project moves forward and those addresses and locations are further defined, then we can always edit it at a later date after application. To that point, the address that you provide here should be mappable. And we have a link here to that Neighborhood Revitalization Mapper website, which Olivia showed a little while ago. And so you can click on that link. It'll pull up the mapper site. You plug the address in. And when you get the return, you'll see on screen, it'll show you the sustainable community layer and some other priority funding area layers potentially. You want to see that that dot exists within the orange boundaries. And you'll want to print that out and upload a copy to the application as evidence that this project location is within the boundary of a sustainable community. And then you can select specifically which sustainable community it is. You'll also select which county is being served by the program or project. Most are going to be a single county. Some might be multiple if it crosses over some boundaries. Occasionally, it might be a statewide. So this box allows you to select one or more counties being served. And then after that, we've got a list of these other kind of priority funding area designations, including like opportunity zones and main streets. And if your mapper shows that that falls into one of these other designations, you can click the box. You can select the specific number for where that falls in or descriptor. And if none apply, you can click the none of the above. And that, of course, means none other than the sustainable community, which you selected earlier. Now, before I move on, and this prompted me, it reminded me I haven't saved my page. So yeah, the save button's always going to appear right here in the banner. It follows you as you scroll down the screen. So save the page often. State systems kind of have a built-in thing that if you're idle on a page for more than 20 to 30 minutes, it'll just kick you out. So you don't want to spend a whole lot of time here just reading, maybe even just typing. You'll want to make sure you hit the save button. That'll refresh the page and that'll reset the timer and you can carry on. Page 2 of the application gives you the opportunity to list multiple addresses. So the primary address you typed on page 1 will appear in row 1. After that, you can list multiple other addresses if known. So case in point, if you're doing demolition of an entire block, you can type the unit address for each of the houses in that block, like 101, 103, 105, et cetera, et cetera. The table is going to start with 5 rows, but as you fill these up and hit the save button, you'll be given more and more sets of rows, and you can add as many addresses as are pertinent to your program or project. Next page is budget and financing. So it's going to pull in the request and cost values that you entered on page 1 as sort of a reference and a cross check for your math. And then you're going to fill out this table and tell us of this request, against what activity type or is this request being made. So if this was, say, a demolition project, and I'm asking for 100,000 in capital, I would type 100K here. Then I've got, I say it's going to be $1 million for the total project. So that other 900,000 is coming from, maybe my organization is pitching in half of that. And then we also have another 400K that we're putting against it from some federal funding source. And you would just type a description of that other source. If your activity doesn't quite fit these fixed descriptors, we do have like 4 slots down here at the bottom where you can type your own activity name and fill out the line item row. The system is going to do an error check on your math. So these totals here are kind of aligning with the bottom row of the table, just adding it up. And if there is a mismatch between the sum totals at the bottom of the table versus what you asked for on page 1, it's going to throw you a little page error and say your math doesn't add up. So If the table is right and it's the way you want it and these numbers at the bottom are correct, then you're going to have to go back to page 1 and edit this request amount and this total project cost so that they match up. After that, estimated total completed cost. This is just basically the big ticket number, particularly applicable to multi-phase projects. Say you're applying this year for phase 1, next year you come back for phase 2. The total project cost for this application of phase 1 is just what do we intend to do this year. But when the entire project is done, what's the total estimated completed cost of all the phases? That's what that question is. Then we give you an opportunity to provide a budget narrative. So this gives you an opportunity to detail some of the activities beyond just the header row category, detail where some of these other funding sources are coming from. Now, this isn't like a really extensive narrative. It is limited to 2,000 characters. Most of the narrative questions all of the narrative questions in this application have a character limit of either 2,000 or 4,000 characters. That's approximately 1/2 page of text for 2,000 characters, or 1 full page of text. If like say you wrote it up in Microsoft Word, it's a good ballpark estimate. It's about 1/2 page. It's about 2,000 characters. 1 full page is about 4,000. So you have to fit it within that character limit. We ask if what kind of financing are you asking for with this request? Grant, loan, or a combination. If you do select loan or loan combo, it asks how you plan to structure the repayment. It asks also then for all funding types, grant or loan, how you intend to secure the other funds. Applicant sources of funds, if you listed that you're contributing some money to the project, here's the chance to detail what sources those are coming from. You can upload evidence to support that. Again, with the rows here, we start out with 3, but if you use up the 3 upload rows and hit save, it'll give you 3 more and keep going. Other sources, if you've identified other sources of funds above, then you will type in a description of where those other sources are coming from, what other funding programs, private contributions, what have you. And again, gives you the opportunity then to upload evidence of that. So award letters or some other evidence that those funds have been received or are expected to be received, either pending or confirmed, to go forward with the project. The next page is timeline and readiness. Garland mentioned that these projects are set for a 2-year period. So you want to provide just a brief timeline of activities of how this project is going to be conducted and completed within those 2 years. The first line is always going to be the project commencement date, so that's when you expect to start. And then within 24 months, within these lines, you're going to end on the completion date. So the last line of your timeline is going to be when are we done? And that would be completion date. And then the activities that occur in between, these can be date ranges. So the start and the end date don't have to be exactly the same. They probably are commencement date, right? Let's say January 1st, 23 to January 1st, 23 is commencement. Maybe it's done December 31st, 25, December 31st, 25. And in between, these could be ranges, and they could overlap. But, depending on how you want to kind of organize it, like the start date should probably be sequential. And then we give you a little narrative here where you can describe in more detail the activities that will occur over this period. The next page is the narrative page, and this is kind of the heavy lifting of the application. So as already mentioned, these narrative questions are all either 2,000 or 4,000 characters in length. I mentioned it before, it's probably recommended, particularly for these lengthy narratives, that you maybe draft them offline, outside of the system in Microsoft Word, just so you have the opportunity to wordsmith it a little bit, get it into that range you want it, get it nice, neat, and concise, and then you can come back into the application, just copy and paste it right back in. Questions about strategies, outputs, outcomes. we've got a question about capacity. So what are the strengths of the organizations to accomplish the project? And related to that, in the past 2 years, have you received other awards funding from Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development programs? If you say yes, it gives you a little table, and this is just fixed. This one is fixed. It's just 5 rows. So perhaps the most recent, if you've had like more than 5 awards through DHCD over the last few years, just list the top 5 or the most recent 5. And you can just tell us, what was the funding program, what was the year it was awarded, how much was awarded, and what's your current balance. That could include other SRP programs in the past, community development block grants, special loans, LIHTC, community investment tax credits, anything, any source of funding or support coming out of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Next section is administration. Will you be administering the project yourself as the applicant organization, or will you be administering the project in part or in whole with another organization other than the applicant? So this could be like a partner, a pass-through. And if that's the case, if you answer that no, you yourself alone are not going to administer it, then we ask that you fill out this little table and tell us who are the other organizations, what is their relationship to you as the applicant, what type of organization is it, are they a partner, are they subrecipient of the other? And in these cases where you do have kind of an arrangement with another organization to assist in the administration or the recipient of the funding, we would like you to provide some evidence of a memorandum of understanding or other formalized relationship between you, the applicant, and these other organizations affiliated with the project. And then after that, just list the principal people who would be involved in the administration of the project. Person, name, title, organization, and what their role will be. If you're using any consultants, contractors, architects, you say yes to that. It gives you another table. You can tell us what the business name is, what service they'll be providing, and whether or not they're a minority-owned business or a women's-owned business. After that, it's been mentioned before, site control is key to capital projects. This question only appears, this section only appears if you've told us that you're requesting capital funds. And you say, it's asking, do you have evidence of site control at the time of application? You can say no. If no, what's your plan for obtaining it? When do you expect to get it? Are you having any other regulatory issues that might interfere with readiness? If you say yes, we have it, then it's asking you to upload that evidence of site control and provide a little description. And again, you can tell us if there are other issues related to the site control that we need to look into a little deeper. Similarly, Maryland Historical Trust, Melissa Archer spoke to this earlier. We're not asking you to go get it yourself, but if you do already have it, because of the location of the project, it had been previously funded, it had already been secured in another way. If you have it, you can say yes, and you can give us a little description. You can upload that evidence of MHT review and give a little description for that file, like the address or the address range that that review covers. The next page is impact data. And this is a series of like 27 questions that just kind of some statistical information about the proposed project. Not all of these questions would apply to every type of project or even to every applicant. So you can just answer the ones that do seem pertinent to the type of project you're requesting. Some of the questions do have an opportunity to put in a numerical value, like this as-is tax value property amount. And then, how is that amount derived or estimated? So again, fill out these to the best of your ability as they would be applicable to your project. The last page of the application is the attachments. And so it's been referenced multiple times that the program guidelines include eligibility lists as well as specific documents required for each program. Some programs have additional supporting documentations required. Bernie plans was an example given. And there may be a few others depending on how they're detailed in those guidelines documents. So we provided here a link back to the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development website to get to those program guidelines. We also have here linked just the checklist page of that guidelines, which is kind of a quick check for those documents required. As a nonprofit organization applicant, you're required to print out or to download one of these disclosure authorization forms, fill it out, print it out, have it signed, upload it back into the system. That is also required of local government applicants. The next one, corporate resolution, this one is only applicable to nonprofits. And this is a corporate resolution form. Download the Word document from here, fill it out, print it, sign it, scan it, upload it back into the system. You may have already received some kind of local government authorization or letter of support for the project. If you have it, you can upload it here. It's optional. If you don't have local government authorization yet, that's fine. The program will pursue it after the application deadline. We'll take care of that if you don't already have it. We also have a space here to upload additional or other signature authorization or letter of designation. So in some cases, the person most likely to sign a thing, let's say like a mayor, if the mayor delegates signature authority to a town manager or someone else, this is a place where you can upload some kind of memo or letter designating that signature authority, delegating that signature authority. And then photographs. So we do require at least one photo be presented with the application, but it does allow you to upload multiple photographs of the proposed project. Finally, we have here, and this is also applicable to nonprofit organizations, just temporary evidence of good standing. We do not require that you go receive the official state Maryland certificate of good standing at the time of application. If awarded, in order to process and execute your agreement, we may need an official copy then, but they are sort of time sensitive and they take a little while. So for the time of application, you just need to go to this website linked here, type in your organization name, and print out the result of that return, the good standing, print it as a PDF, upload it here, and that'll serve for the purposes of application. I made reference earlier before about those organization documents that are found under the My Organization link. If you're a nonprofit, you'll see this section. Just gives you an opportunity right here within the application to review those documents again and just make sure that they're current. So if you find that any of these are out of date and need to be replaced, you should probably just pause the application, go to My Organizations, update those documents, then you can come back, finish it off. If any of these items are listed are not links, they're just black text, that means there's no document uploaded yet. So that's another cue that you might need to go and update your My Organization profile before completing the application. The next section is just other additional supporting documents. So if you've got other things that would support the project, and I think the program guidelines and the checklist list some examples, but it might be other letters of support, or program guidelines, or press articles, or what have you, things that might support the project. You can upload these here. We start with 3 rows, but as you fill up the first 3 rows and hit save, you'll get more upload fields, so you can upload multiple documents. I hadn't mentioned it before, probably should have. Each page save upload has a limit of 25 megabytes per save. So if you've got a particularly photo or graphic color heavy document that you're trying to upload, first check the file size. Just right click on that file you're going to upload, look up, see how big it is. If it's bigger than 25 meg, you might need to compress it before upload. And the last thing you'll do is you'll put an authorizing signature name and title on this. You'll hit the save button after you fill out this bottom section. Otherwise, it won't save the name and the title you typed in. So hit the save button before you hit the green button to either cancel or submit the application. When you do hit the button to submit, you will always have two options. The first one is the affirmative. I want to submit this application. So you're going to hit confirm. So it's like a kind of a double confirmation. You press the green button first, then the confirm button. That completes the submission. You also do have the option at any time to cancel the application. So if you wanted to, you could press cancel. That'll just put it away, put it to the side, and forget about it. If you accidentally cancel and you, oh, I didn't mean to do that, let us know. We can reverse it. But that's why submitted is listed first, because that's the most likely. When you hit confirm application submitted, it will go through a little process. It'll do a little error checking. If it finds any errors on any page, it will block the submission. It'll present you with a page that says global errors. It'll list out the pages and the errors that it found. So it's prompting you then to go back to those pages, fix whatever's wrong, and then try again. If there is no problem and the submission goes through, what will happen is you'll get returned to this menu page, and status will say application in review. So that's a text prompt that it's been received. You will also receive to your email address, you'll receive a system notification that says your application has been submitted. And that's your email confirmation as well as an on-screen confirmation. And the other thing that'll happen when it's been submitted successfully is that if you were to go check your My Tasks window again on your home page, the one that was successfully submitted will disappear. So only things that are pending some action on your part will appear on this task. But if it's been submitted, we've received it, it'll be gone from this list. I think that ends my part. So I'd be happy to pass it back to Garland. He can pick up the back end of this presentation.
Fantastic. Excuse me. Thank you, Brian, for that thorough presentation on the application process. Again, we are here to help you through that. And so if you do have any questions, you can contact the project manager that's assigned to the region where the project is, and they can provide you with any technical assistance that you may need. And pull back up the PowerPoint. We just have a couple more slides to go, and then we're going to do our breakout boxes, and then we'll be done. And so just a couple quick things I wanted to go over real quick, not to present everything that Brian just presented, but we do want to let you know for current awardees, for your FY23 application, we're requiring that you be in compliance with the terms and conditions of your current award agreement. So that means that you're up to date with reports, submission of requests for payments, all of those particular things according to the grant agreement. Please just check to make sure that you are in compliance, because if you're not in compliance, then you need to contact your project manager to talk about the status of your project before submitting an application. And so that's only applying to current awardees. We went over that. And that. One thing I wanted to say about site control, and also Larry, if you wanted to jump in and talk about this as well. Site control is very important. If you are, say for instance, you want to do deconstruction of a building or rehab of a building, you must show evidence of site control. That means you have a deed. That means that we're able to find that that you have ownership through state records, or you can provide some type of document to show that you have ownership. In addition, say like for instance, you are at Main Street and you are doing a facade improvement program. We ask that you get a letter or a memorandum of understanding between you and that property owner that gives you permission to use any awarded funds towards that particular project on that building. And so we do require that for pass-throughs. And so it's important that site control showing legal nexus of ownership of the building is very important. Larry, did you have anything to add to that site control?
No, I think you did a great job, going pretty much hitting on the key point. So I guess the only thing I will add, even in regards to site control, your project might be to acquire a site. So that way, in that instance, you wouldn't be able to provide a deed or a HUD-1. However, if you can provide a contract of sale or a letter of intent or something to that extent, that would be sufficient to show that your project is shovel ready, and that if you are awarded funds, you could proceed to the next level of actually acquiring the project and moving forward.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Brian did mention about photographs, making sure that you have photographs if it's a interior project and we need great interior photographs, or exterior if the project is a site, photographs of the entire site. If you're doing construction or renovation projects, including copies of the plans or the specs for that particular project, or any construction drawings that you think are relevant. And also, if this is if you're awarded over $250,000 for the project, we ask that you also file a minority business enterprise plan. And so that's required for all awards over $250,000. And so as you're working on your project and you know that you're asking for something over that amount, please also work on a minority business enterprise plan that could be submitted with the application as well. Now, one of the things that we do require is a Maryland Historical Trust review of all capital projects. And so to talk a little bit more about that process, we're going to pass it over to Melissa Archer, who is the DHCD Preservation Officer.
Thanks, Garland. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Melissa Archer. I'm the Preservation Officer for the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization. And my job here is to help coordinate our compliance with the Maryland Historical Trust Act, and also, if applicable, the Federal National Historic Preservation Act. And so those two laws basically require that as a state agency, DHCD has to avoid harming historic buildings. That includes properties that are officially designated historic and listed in the National Register of Historic Places, but it also includes properties that could be eligible. That's a determination that is made by the state. And so luckily for you guys, you don't have to figure out what's historic, what's not. That's my job here as the liaison. And we just wanted you to be aware at the time of application that it is something that we consider as we're assessing applications. And there is a part in the application that includes an upload of documentation of an MHT review. And I want to be clear that that section refers to MHT reviews that have already been completed, that you may have on hand from either past awards, or perhaps your project received other sources of state or federal funding, like a Maryland Heritage Area grant, or a bond bill, or CDBG grant, something like that, that you've already coordinated and received a determination. There's a place in the application for you to upload that. Otherwise, if you're just brand new applying for SRP funds for this project, an MHT review is not required at the time of application. So please do not reach out to the Maryland Historical Trust to ask them to review your project. That is our job. We will coordinate that. And my job is to figure out what's historic, what needs to undergo review, and when. And generally, we initiate those reviews after award decisions are made. So if you have any questions about the process and what we consider historic and the things we look for, you can reach me at my email, melissa.archer2@maryland.gov. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. And now, so what happens? You've done all of the required stuff. You've gotten your application in and submitted. What happens to your application then? Well, we go through a program review process, and our process not only involves our internal team, but it also involves several agencies that we collaborate with in the review and ranking and scoring and recommendation of projects. And so we work in a partnership with Maryland Historical Trust, the Department of Environment, Department of Transportation, Department of Planning, Natural Resources, and the Department of Commerce. And in addition, we have staff that are on other teams or within other units of DHCD that also work with us in the entire review process. And so each project manager coordinates a review team for that region made up of staff from these various agencies. And so how do we rank and score projects? Well, we give 20 points, up to 20 points for a demonstration of community need for reinvestment. This is also kind of closely related to your sustainable community plan. You know, have you shown that there is a demonstrated need for the project that you are proposing? And number two, we look for clarity of project details and readiness. And we talked about this earlier, shovel-ready projects. As a matter of fact, this is our highest rated area, 35 points. And so that shows you the importance of having shovel-ready projects that are ready to proceed and can be done within that 2-year grant period. Then we look at the capacity of the sponsors and the partners. And so like, for instance, you are a nonprofit, but you're partnering with a maybe a for-profit development organization. Do they have the capacity to do the proposed project? And so we do rank that and evaluate the capacity of the applicant to complete the project. And that's 20 points. And then finally, we look at committed financial resources and other leverage resources that are supporting the project. And we rate that at 25 points. And then also, we have some priority considerations that we consider when we're looking at the applications as well. It's a project focusing on revitalizing an older community. If it's a project core application, is it meeting one of the project core initiatives? Is the project in a designated main street, not only in the communities across the state, but Baltimore City as well? Does it tie in some type of transit-oriented development, or is it around transit-oriented development type things? Does it address any environmental responsibilities, such as greening or creating green space or stewarding lots, things like that? Is it increasing opportunities for workforce development? Is it bringing jobs to an area? Is it creating workforce opportunities for those particular communities? And are you using a full range of not only state, but local revitalization programs and financing tools? Do you have private-public partnerships? Do you have foundations and other types of funds that are supporting, or, you know, other types of financing tools or programs that are supporting your project? And then finally, there are also some additional considerations for Karen. One, we ask that you prioritize submissions. And when we talk about prioritize submissions, we don't want you to take one project and submit it in every funding source. That's not prioritizing your submissions. We really want you to put forth your best application in one funding source that you really think would meet the need of that particular project. And so we ask that you prioritize, especially if you're going to have multiple submissions, that you prioritize those projects and let us know what projects are most important. Larry, did you have anything else to say on prioritizing submissions?
The only thing I would add, just put an emphasis on, is really about making sure that what you can do to help make your application really competitive is really to provide as much support and documentation to show that your project is shovel ready as possible. And even oftentimes we might have really large projects. Say, for example, you have a development project that maybe total $10 million. A way to help make your project a little bit more shovel ready, if you don't have a lot of other funds committed, is to really break down your project into phases. So for this specific application, you might just come in for phase 1 of a $10 million new construction project. And that first phase may consist of acquisition of the site, as well as some pre-development architectural design work. And that may only be 1.5 million of the total $10 million. So don't feel like you got to have the bulk of the money committed for a larger project to get started, but more so look at the big picture and break it down into bite-sized phases, because again, it's really about being able to if you're awarded, be able to access the funds and put these funds into to work. So hopefully that's helpful. I know we're going to get into the breakout sessions shortly. So if you guys have specific questions, we can get into those specific questions a little bit more in detail. Thanks, Garland.
No problem. Fantastic. Again, we talked about shovel readiness, and so projects, we're hoping that, you know, at least 50% of the award will be drawn down by the first anniversary date of the award. Again, you know, that just, we have this in place to ensure that, you know, the money is just being spent at a clip where, you know, you'll be able to expend those funds within the 2-year period. And you can always consult with your DHCD project manager to, if you are a current awardee, discuss the status of your existing project before submitting an application. Now, this is also another big question that we normally get. How are the funds awarded? We do 2 types of awards. We do grants and we do loans. We only do loans for large awards that are larger than $250,000, and it's involving new development or acquisition, rehab, that may require that future profits or a percentage of the award be repaid back, to the department. And these loans are secured by a promissory note, deed of trust, or some similar security agreement as required by the department. And so if it is a large award, something you're asking $500,000, $250,000 or higher, we may, you know, if awarded, want to enter into some type of loan agreement with you, where, you know, you would work with our appointed attorney, and they would work with your legal representation as well to develop an agreement where we would secure that with a promissory note or deed of trust. And sometimes those things are forgivable if you meet certain criteria. And so we would dialogue with you on that and guide you through that process. But for the most part, the majority of our awards are awards made as grants. All right, we've already pretty much gone over our regions, but this is our regional map. It can be found on the DHCD website in terms of who covers where. Again, Larry Brown handles Northwest Baltimore, Baltimore County. Jamila Canty handles Northeast Baltimore City, Baltimore County. Sarah Kim handles Southeast Baltimore and Baltimore County. Jean Cannon, she handles Southwest Baltimore, Howard County, and Anne Arundel County. Region 5 is Sarah Jackson, which is all of our western counties: Carroll, Frederick, Washington, Allegheny, and Garrett. Region 6 is Ashley Green, and that's Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles, Calvert, and St. Mary's. And for right now, I'm handling the Upper Shore and the Lower Shores. And so that's Hartford, Cecil, Kent, Queen Anne's, Talbot, Caroline, Dorchester, Wycomico, Somerset, and Worcester. And these are the contact numbers for our staff as well. You can find this on our website as well, the DHCD website. And if you have any specific questions, please, in those particular regions, please reach out to those assigned project managers, and they will get back with you as soon as possible. We are mostly working hybrid schedules, and so some of us are in the office several days a week, and we're working remotely those other days, but we're always on email. You can always call those numbers as well, and we'll get right back to you as soon as possible. And again, if you just have any overall general questions, you can always reach out to Larry Brown and myself as well. All right, now we're going to go into some our breakout rooms, and you're welcome to stay. Like I said, we did set up the breakout rooms for by region, and so if you do have a specific question that you know is a regional question, you're welcome to stay and ask that question, and we'll try to accommodate you as much as we can. And if not, you're welcome to leave. But again, thank you for coming to be with us during this time. We look forward to seeing your applications. and we wish you the best with your submission. So if you give us a second.